For 5 years, I was my sister's ATM. The moment I said no more, she screamed, "Go to hell," and threw cake in my face. Now she owes me $39,000, plus interest. For the past 5 years, I, a 32-year-old man, have essentially been my 29-year-old sister's personal bank. Let's call her Leia. I'm not talking about a casual $20 for gas kind of loan. I mean full-on financial support, rent, utilities, groceries, clothes for her kids, school supplies, everything. I work at a car parts factory. It's not glamorous, but it pays well if you're willing to work a lot of overtime. I've been doing almost nothing but overtime since Leia's husband left her. My social life? What social life? I haven't had a real vacation since 2019, most weekends. I'm either working extra shifts or fixing something broken at Leia's apartment. It wasn't always this way. Leia used to be married to a guy named Travis, a decent electrician with a steady job. They seemed pretty normal and had a child together. My niece Chloe, who's now 7 and actually quite cool. Leia has always struggled with her temper. She could seem fine, then just snap over nothing, throwing huge tantrums and yelling at Travis for minor things, like buying the wrong cereal or not texting her back fast enough. It's really no surprise he got fed up and left when Chloe was about to. Remember Leia calling me at 11 p.m. sobbing about Travis being a selfish guy who abandoned his family. I later found out he'd been telling her for months that he was unhappy, but she apparently didn't take him seriously. Anyway, after the divorce, Leia couldn't afford her apartment anymore. Her mall's job paid little, and childcare costs are outrageous. This is where my parents, Richard and Margaret, should have stepped in, right? But no, they've been living the retirement dream since my dad got his pension. They travel about 4 months a year and have even redone their house with one of those fancy TV kitchens. When I suggested they help Leia, their daughter, my mom just smiled patronizingly and said, "You're young and capable, Finn. You don't have any responsibilities yet. Leia needs help right now." So like an idiot, I agreed to help Leia temporarily. While she got back on her feet, that was in 2020. It's currently 2025, and guess what? I'm still helping. At first, it was just rent. Then rent and utilities, since electricity gets incredibly expensive in the winter. Then groceries, because Chloe was growing and needed nutritious food. Then it was clothes for Chloe, school supplies, after-school activities, and a new laptop because she needed one for school. She was only in first grade. New furniture, because the old stuff reminded her of Travis, and on and on. Every time I hinted at cutting back on certain expenses, Leia would pull one of her classic moves. Sometimes she'd cry about how hard it is to be a single mom, or she'd get super defensive, declaring, "You're being cheap." Her favorite tactic was to use Chloe as a shield. "So you want your niece to go without basic necessities?" she'd asked, reminding me how lucky I was not to have a family to support. Here's the thing about me. I've always been the family fixer. Maybe it's middle child syndrome. When things get uncomfortable, I crack jokes. I try to keep the peace. I hate conflict. When I hand Leia money, I know I'll never see again. I just make a sarcastic remark like, "Well, there goes my dream yacht. Work. I guess I'll just have to win the lottery now." Everyone laughs. The issue's diffused, but I'm still broke. I actually had a dream once. I was saving for a down payment on a house. Leia had about $15,000 saved up when her life fell apart. That money was gone within the first year of my helping her. I also planned to take some community college courses to advance my career or get a better job. Can't afford it now. I've even tried dating occasionally, but it's tough to go out when you're pinching pennies after paying 2 sets of bills. My friend Jordan constantly reminds me I'm being used. Dude, she's a grown woman. She should figure it out like everyone else. But when kids are involved, it's not so straightforward. Chloe didn't ask for any of this. Oh, I adore that. Little kid. She's smart and funny, and she draws dinosaurs wearing hats. How can you say no when you know your niece might suffer? Uncle Henry's the only one in my family who sees through Leia's act. Pulled me aside at Thanksgiving last year and said, "Kid, you're setting yourself on fire to keep someone warm who's just going to complain it's not hot enough." Henry's always been direct like that. He offered to lend me money once, but I declined. This problem is already complicated enough without more family members in the financial picture. About 8 months ago, Leia finally found a good full-time job with benefits as an administrative assistant at an insurance company. I hoped things would finally change. Maybe I could just help with Chloe's expenses or pay part of the rent instead of the whole thing. But the financial demands continued, often even more so than before. Changing jobs is expensive in many ways. She needed a professional wardrobe, networking lunches, and other things that sounded uncomfortably similar to. Meanwhile, I'm still driving my 2008 Honda with 187,000 miles on it, shopping at discount grocery stores, and using my phone until it practically dies because I can't afford a replacement. But I kept paying because I'm a sucker, I guess. Because it feels impossible to say no after saying yes so many times. Because I'm worried about what will happen to Chloe if I cut Leia off. Because my whole family identity is dependable Finn, who solves everyone's problems with a smile and a joke. But after Leia got her new office job, I started noticing weird things, not all at once, but in small increments that just didn't add up. First, her financial situation worsened rather than improved. When she was working part-time at the mall, I could understand why she needed help. But now she was making money, not fantastic, but certainly better than before, and still asking me for money, sometimes even more. One week she called and said she couldn't pay her rent because she had to pay for Chloe's school pictures. School photos cost about $50, but her rent is $1,200. Does that make sense? When I went over to her apartment, I started seeing new things. Nothing fancy, but definitely not bargain bin stuff. New throw pillows and brand name makeup on her bathroom counter. She even got one of those robot vacuums. Who buys a robot vacuum if they can't pay their electricity bill? The big red flag was when she showed up at my folks' house for Sunday dinner wearing these fancy shoes. I only recognized the brand because the person I was dating was obsessed with it. They cost at least $300. When I raised an eyebrow, she just shrugged and claimed they were on sale. On sale for $250 instead of $300? That's still crazy when I'm over here buying work boots at Walmart. Then she started acting weird about her phone. She used to just leave it on the table, but now she carries it everywhere, even the bathroom. She jumps anytime it alerts her with a notification. I once walked in when she was texting. She practically flipped her phone over like she was hiding nuclear codes or something. Her routine also got strange. Previously, she'd spend evenings at home with Chloe, but she started asking me to babysit more and more, usually last minute. Emergency work thing, she'd explain, or girls' night. I really need this for my mental health. Now, I get the need for social time, especially as a single mom. But this was happening 2 or 3 times every week. I also noticed Chloe saying things that didn't align with Leia's broke single mom story. One day, I was picking her up from school, and she told me about this amazing restaurant with a table where they cook in front of you, obviously a hibachi place. When I asked who took her there, she replied, "Mommy took me last week." Sitting there thinking, I gave Leia money for groceries last week because she said they were eating ramen every night. Yet, she could afford hibachi. It's about $60 to $70 for 2 people. Easily another time, Chloe was playing with my phone and accidentally launched my Amazon app. She saw a toy and said, "I have that. Mommy ordered it for my good grades." The toy cost $40. Not the most expensive item ever, but certainly not what someone who can't pay their water bill should buy. I started paying more attention to Leia's social media. She wasn't posting anything overtly suspicious. She was tagging herself in places like nice restaurants, wineries, and performance venues. She was always with a bunch of work friends she hadn't mentioned before. I casually brought up one of these outings. "Hey, how was that Italian place you went to Tuesday?" She immediately got defensive. "Are you stalking my Instagram now?" Wow, Finn, controlling much. I backed off, because that's what I do. Make a joke, smooth things over, and pretend everything's fine. Just making conversation, sis. Glad you're making friends at your new job. I began to wonder where my money was actually going. If she could afford girls' nights, hibachi, and high-end shoes, why couldn't she pay rent? Something wasn't adding up. Uncle Henry noticed too. We were helping my dad repair his deck well. Henry and I were working as Dad watched when Henry just asked me, "You still bankrolling Leia's life?" I gave him a nod and sir, like, you know how it is. Family helps family. When Reed just shook his head. That girl's taking you for a ride, Finn. You don't see it because you don't want to, but everyone else does. That stung because deep down I knew he was right. Oh. Even my friend Jordan had stopped asking me to go out because he was tired of hearing, "I can't afford it," while seeing me Venmo hundreds of dollars to my sister. I tried talking to my parents once. We were at their house for Dad's birthday, and Leia had just begged me for money to fix her car the day before and $800 repair that. I'm pretty sure it was made up. Don't you think it's strange that Leia still needs so much help despite her new job? I asked Mom while we were alone in the kitchen. Mom just gave me that you're being difficult look. She's a single mother, Finn. Do you have any idea how expensive it is to raise a child? If you're lucky, you only have to worry about yourself. There it was again. I'm lucky to be stuck paying for 2 families on 1 paycheck while everyone else gets to live their lives. When Leia started getting deliveries, I became extremely suspicious. I knew because Chloe mentioned it. Delivery man comes to our house a lot now. Mommy says it's because she deserves nice things. Goodness. While I'm over here debating whether I can afford to fix my car's air conditioner or if I should just sweat through another summer, I still didn't know what was going on. Part of me wondered if she had a shopping addiction or was in some kind of trouble she wasn't telling me about. Either way, I resolved to find out the truth. The next time she asked me to babysit last minute for a work event, I agreed, as usual. I didn't plan on going through my sister's things that day. I'm not that kind of person. But when I arrived to babysit Chloe, strange things started happening. First, Leia was totally dressed up for a work event on a Thursday night. She was wearing a tight black dress I'd never seen, had fancy makeup and hair done, and was wearing perfume that clearly cost more than the body sprays she used to buy at the mall. When I asked about it, she got really defensive. Some of us care about our appearance, Finn. Not everyone wants to look like they just rolled out of bed. For the record, I was wearing regular jeans and a clean t-shirt. Not exactly just rolled out of bed, but whatever. The second strange thing was that Chloe seemed confused about where her mother was going. When Leia remarked, "Mommy has to go to a work thing," Chloe replied, "Is Mason going to be there?" Leia's face went white almost instantly. She yelled at Chloe, "Go brush your teeth right now." Practically shoved me into the kitchen, stating we needed to talk about Chloe's bedtime routine. Now, I'm not stupid. "Who's Mason?" I asked. "Just a coworker," she replied hastily. "We're all going to this team building thing," she lied. I've known Leia my whole life, and she has this habit of touching her earring when she lies. She was practically ripping on her earring by this point. But I let it go because Chloe came back into the room, and I didn't want to start a fight in front of her. Leia left quickly, telling me not to wait up, because these work things can run late. After I settled Chloe with a movie, I decided to look around a little. Not full-on snooping, just observing. I wasn't opening drawers or anything. When I went to put away Chloe's sweater, I noticed a men's jacket hanging in the hall closet. Not like a unisex jacket, but a standard men's leather jacket in size extra large. Travis, Leia's ex, was a medium at best. In the bathroom, I noticed men's body wash in the shower. Not the cheap kind either, the premium stuff, which costs around $15 a bottle. There was also a men's razor on the countertop. But the real proof was in the living room. While Chloe was putting on her pajamas, I saw some mail on the coffee table. One envelope was addressed to Mason Jennings, with the same address as Leia's apartment. This guy was getting mail at her place. That's not a casual thing. That's not a coworker, not someone who spends a lot of time there. When Chloe returned for the movie, I casually said, "Hey, sweetie, who's Mason again? Is he one of Mommy's friends from work?" She gave me that adults are so dumb look that only kids can pull off. "No, Uncle Finn. Mason is Mommy's boyfriend. He sleeps over a lot and makes pancakes in the morning." Okay, there it was. My sister had a secret boyfriend who apparently spent enough time at her house to get mail and make breakfast. "Does Mason buy you things?" I asked, trying to sound casual. "Sometimes," she responded, focused on picking a movie. "He got me the robot that cleans the floor, and he took me and Mommy to the restaurant where they cook in front of you. He has a cool car, too." So this guy was buying gifts for my niece, taking them to expensive places, and apparently driving a cool car. All while I was still paying Leia's rent and utilities because she couldn't afford them. I felt sick to my stomach. For 5 years, I'd been sacrificing everything to support Leia, thinking she was struggling. And now, she had a man who was spending money on her and Chloe while I was still paying the bills. The more Chloe talked, the worse things got. Mason had apparently been around for at least 6 months. He took them to the zoo after Leia told me she couldn't afford Chloe's field trip. He even took them on a weekend trip to a water park the same weekend Leia told me she needed extra money because her hours were cut. I kept my composure in front of Chloe. We watched the movie. I told her a story, and I tucked her in as if everything was fine, but internally, I was furious. After Chloe fell asleep, I looked around more carefully. In Leia's room, I found shopping bags in her closet with receipts for luxury clothes and even an iPad. It's all purchased within the last few months, while I was eating ramen for dinner to save money. In her nightstand drawer, there were weekend vacation brochures and a handwritten note that read, "Happy 6 months, babe. Can't wait for many more. Love her 6 months." She'd been dating this guy for half a year and was still taking my money. I grabbed my phone and started photographing everything. The men's items in the bathroom, the mail, the shopping receipts, and the card. I even took a photo of the guy's jacket. I wanted evidence when she tried to deny everything. Then I looked. At her Instagram, she wasn't posting pictures with any guys, but when I looked closely at her girls' night out shots, I noticed the same guy in the background of several of them. Not tagged, but clearly there. In one photo, you can even see his hand on her waist. Subtle, sis. Very subtle. I was still sitting there looking through her social media when I heard her key in the door around midnight. I immediately put everything back where I found it and tried to look relaxed on the couch. She came in, still dressed up, a little tipsy, and surprised to see me awake. "Oh, you're still here? How was Chloe?" "Great," I answered, my tone flat. "We had a nice talk." She told me all about Mason. The expression on her face was almost worth the thousands of dollars I had wasted on her. She then went from denying everything he's just a friend to downplaying it. We've only been dating a few weeks to finally admitting they'd been together for almost 6 months. But the worst part was when she tried to explain keeping him hidden from me. "You're so judgmental, Finn. I knew you'd make a big deal out of it." "A big deal? You've been taking my money for emergencies while spending it on dates with this guy. It's not like that. Mason's going through a tough time financially right now. I've been helping him out sometimes. It's when I completely lost." So let me get this straight," I responded, trying to stay calm. "I work overtime every week so you can pay your bills. But instead, you're using that money to support some grown man who should be supporting himself." She burst into tears then. Oh, classic Leia move. When logic fails, activate the waterworks. She went on about how I didn't understand how wonderful Mason was with Chloe, how she was happy for the first time since Travis left, and how dare I try to ruin it for her. I told her I was finished. No more money, no more bailouts, no longer being her personal ATM. She was capable of paying her own bills just like every other adult on earth. Of course, she called me every name in the book. Selfish, uncaring, and jealous because I didn't have anyone. That last one stung because it might have been true. It's tough to date when you're constantly working and broke from helping your sister. Left her place that night, assuming it was the end. Boy, was I wrong. The next morning, my parents called. Guess who contacted them at 1 a.m., weeping about how mean I was? They lectured me on the importance of family support and how unreasonable I was. When I tried to explain about Mason, they brushed it aside as if it were nothing. "So, she has a boyfriend? What's the big deal? She deserves some happiness after everything she's been through." Did everyone forget that I've been through a lot too? That I'd put my entire life on hold for 5 years? For the next week, Leia kept texting me about invoices that were due. I ignored them all. My parents called repeatedly, leaving guilt-ridden voicemails about how Chloe shouldn't suffer because I was stubborn. I ignored those too. I was finally standing my ground, which felt great. Then came Saturday. I was at home doing laundry when the doorbell rang. It was Leia with a fancy-looking cake box. "Can I come in?" she asked, looking genuinely regretful for once. Against my better judgment, I let her in. She placed the cake on my kitchen table and started giving an obviously scripted speech about how sorry she was for not telling me about Mason and how she understood why I was upset. But couldn't we figure things out? Maybe I could still help. With the rent, while she sorted things out, I looked at her in disbelief. You still don't get it, do you? This isn't just about your boyfriend. It's about the lying, the manipulating, using me for 5 years while hiding how you were really spending the money. That's not fair, she responded, getting defensive again. I did need help with necessities. Sure, not with fancy date nights and gifts for your boyfriend. Do you have any idea what I've given up for you? I've been living like I'm broke because I am broke after giving you all my money? It wasn't all of your money, she mumbled. Don't exaggerate, I laughed. Really laughed. Leah, I've given you over $35,000 in the past 5 years. I calculated it. Her eyes bulged. I don't think she'd ever done the math. Look, I told you I'm not even asking for the money back. It's gone, but I'm done. You have a job. You have a boyfriend. Figure it out between the two of you. That's when she pointed to the cake box. I got your favorite carrot cake from that bakery you like as a peace offering. When I opened the box, there was indeed a lovely carrot cake inside, but something about it felt odd. What's this really for? I inquired. You've never brought me cake as an apology before. She fidgeted with her earrings. Just wanted to make things right. I saw some writing on the cake, partially visible under the box top. I opened it fully to see. Happy 6-month anniversary. R. The rest was smudged. It clicked right away. This is for Mason, isn't it? Today's your 6-month anniversary with him. Her face turned crimson. Well, yes, but I thought we could share it. I'm trying to include you in my life. Include me. I asked, my voice getting louder. You didn't even buy this for me. You bought it for your anniversary. And what? He canceled, so you thought you'd use it to butter me up instead. Mason didn't cancel. She yelled. He's meeting me later. I just thought you thought you'd smooth things over with me so I'd keep paying your bills. Then go celebrate with him using my favorite cake that I'm guessing you paid for with money I gave you for your electric bill last month. It's not like that, she cried. God, you're impossible. This is why I didn't tell you about him. You're so judgmental and controlling. Controlling. I've let you walk all over me for 5 years. I'm not trying to control you. Just done. Being used by you? Fine, she exclaimed. Keep being a bitter, lonely loser jerk. Mason loves me, which is more than anyone can say about you. Hurt more than I cared to admit. If Mason loves you so much, I replied with a grimace, then congratulations. You finally found someone else to be your ATM, though, I'm guessing. He doesn't know that's his role yet. Maybe check if his credit score can handle the lay attacks before you get too attached. Her face distorted with wrath, and before I could respond, she snatched the cake and smashed it right in my face. Carrot cake got everywhere, in my eyes, up my nose, down my shirt. The hefty cake plate struck me hard enough to cut my lip. Go to hell, Finn, she exclaimed. You think you're so much better than everyone. At least Mason isn't a pathetic loser, who has no life outside of work. I stood there in awe, icing streaming down my cheeks. I was 29 years old, and my sister was flinging cake at me like a baby having a temper tantrum. She grabbed her purse and raced toward the door before turning back. Don't expect to see Chloe again if this is how you're going to be. The threat to use my niece as a weapon was the final straw. Get out, I murmured calmly, despite the cake. On my face, and don't come back until you're ready to act like an adult. After she left, I stood in my kitchen, cake dripping on the floor, wondering how my life had come to this. After 5 years of sacrifice, all I got was a cake to the face and a threat to prevent me from seeing my niece. I took a shower, washed the frosting off my ears and hair, and made a decision. This was not over. If Leah wanted to play dirty, I could too. My phone started filling up with text messages from my folks. Apparently, Leah had already contacted them at 1 a.m. with her version of events, in which I was cruel and unreasonable, and she was the victim again. This time, I didn't. Ignore them. I snapped a picture of my still red face with the cut on my lip and sent it to the family group chat with this message. This is what your daughter did when I said I wouldn't pay her expenses anymore. Do you still think I am the problem?
Ads.
Response: you know how emotional she can get. Shouldn't have pressed her buttons. Classic. Leia acts like a lunatic, and it's my responsibility for pushing her buttons by refusing to pay her expenses any longer. I tried to explain about the boyfriend again, how she had been lying for months, and about the shopping sprees, restaurants, and excursions. Their response was basically, well, that's between her and her boyfriend. No, it's between her, her boyfriend, and Mitha guy who's been funding it all. Uncle Henry was the only one on my side. He called. Are you pressing charges? Was his first question. I wasn't, obviously. Nice. She's still my sister, and Chloe would be traumatized if her mother were arrested. But the fact that someone finally admitted how bad the situation was meant a lot. Meanwhile, Leia had launched a full-scale public relations campaign against me. She was telling everyone who would listen that I had abandoned her and Chloe because I was envious of their love. She even made some weird comments on Facebook about toxic family members and finding out who really loves you. I could have just walked away at this point, cut communication, nursed my wounds, and tried to rebuild my savings. But something about me had changed. I had had enough of being the nice guy who takes the hit for everyone else. Uncle Henry and I met for lunch a few days later. We were just finishing our burgers when he gave me a serious look. Have you thought about what you're going to do next? Because your sister isn't just going to let this go. I shrugged. What can I do? The money's gone. Henry smirked. Maybe not. My buddy Alex works at a debt collection agency. The legit kind, not the scammy ones. You got records of all the money you gave her? Every penny, I replied. I've been tracking it in a spreadsheet for years. 3 days later, I was sitting across from Alex, sliding a folder full of statements, Venmo receipts, and text screenshots across his desk. So your sister asked for money for rent emergencies while buying $300 shoes. He inquired, thumbing over the proof. And taking secret boyfriends to fancy restaurants? And you have texts where she explicitly acknowledges these were loans? I pointed to the highlighted part. Leia, I swear I'll pay you back when I get on my feet. You said that last month. Leia, I mean it this time. Perfect, he replied. I can work with this. I walked out of his office with a bounce in my step for the first time in weeks. The official notification was delivered to Leia's apartment 2 days later. Total owed $39,423. 27, plus reasonable interest. Payment is needed immediately. Failure to respond might result in credit reporting, possible wage garnishment, and other legal action. My phone rang about 18 minutes later. Are you freaking serious right now? Leia's voice was so harsh that I had to move the phone away from my ear. Hello to you too, sis. You sent a debt collector after me. Well, I said with a smile. You know what they say when someone throws cake in your face? Send a professional to collect what they owe you or something like that? This isn't funny. They're threatening my credit score. That is serious. Maybe you could ask Mom and Dad for help. Or Mason. He seems to enjoy funding your lifestyle, though I guess he thought he was dating an independent woman, not someone who's been mooching off her brother for 5 years. The yelling that ensued was remarkable. I waited approximately 30 seconds before interrupting. Look, it's simple. You borrowed money. You didn't repay it. Now you have a debt. Welcome to adulthood, Leia. Those weren't loans. They were family helping family. Funny, I have about 50 texts that say otherwise. She hung up. I laughed and shut my phone, knowing that the family nuclear meltdown was about to occur. It did not disappoint. Mom and Dad made 17 calls in the next hour. I finally answered while making myself a meal. Have you completely lost your mind? Dad exclaimed without hesitation. Hi, Dad. I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. A debt collector? Against your own sister. Since she's allergic to personal responsibility, I thought I'd introduce her to professional responsibility. Mom cut in. Finn, you need to call this off immediately. Leia is absolutely distraught. So was I when she smashed cake in my face, and when she spent the money I gave her for rent on her secret boyfriend. But please tell me more about how I'm the bad guy here. This isn't who we raised you to be, Dad remarked sadly. You raised me to be a doormat. Weird, I must have missed that lesson. The conversation then deteriorated. They alternated between guilt, threats, and pleas to familial loyalty. Know what's really funny? I ended by stating, I'm the only one who's ever held Leia accountable for anything. Maybe if you'd done that years ago, we wouldn't be here. They hung up on me. Progress. Alex called the following day. Your sister and her boyfriend came in? He remarked, amused. Quite the performance, I bet. Let me guess. Tears, screaming, threats to call the police. All of the above. But the boyfriend pulled me aside and asked how much it would take to make this go away immediately. I almost dropped my phone. Seriously? He seemed very concerned about her credit score, almost like he was planning something that required good credit. I told him a significant good faith payment would show seriousness. He wrote a check for $5,000 on the spot. I burst into laughter. You what? Yep, and they signed a payment plan for the rest. $500 a month until it's paid off. Congratulations. You'll be getting about $350 a month after our fee. I hung up and performed a victory dance in my living room. The best investment in a debt collector ever. Leia's social media accounts became oddly silent after that. No more posts about toxic families. No more victim narratives. Just radio silence. The first payment came into my account the next week. I quickly used it to fix my car's air conditioner, which had been broken for 2 summers. The following month, I paid off one of my credit cards. The month after that, I opened a savings account. My parents continued to give me the cold shoulder, certain that I had committed some unforgivable transgression against the precious institution of family. Uncle Henry found it hilarious. They'll come around, he told us during our fishing trip. Or they won't. Either way, you're not bankrupt anymore. What's the best part? For the first time in 5 years, I can buy decent coffee at the grocery store without worrying about how many of Leia's expenses the money will cover. Freedom tastes like a quality dark roast, which is excellent since several people have asked. Yes, the debt collector way is legal if you have adequate paperwork showing the money was a loan, not a gift. Text messages in which someone acknowledges that it is a loan and agrees to repay, you are legally binding in most places. Do your research and save your receipts.